What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to talk about why this week is going to be very big for Tesla as we have earnings coming out in just a couple of days, and what the data is suggesting for tomorrow for the markets, and which earnings are going to be coming out for tomorrow. But before I break anything down about all this information, before I talk about what's going on with Tesla and all these different tickers from a technical standpoint, what you should be watching for going into tomorrow, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. Now, this offer ends in just 12 hours, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market, Tesla, and all these different stocks. So Tesla was down 2.99% for the day on Friday as the market continued to sink. However, we're starting to see bullish divergences developing, which tells me there could be a temporary bounce coming to the markets. And I believe approaching Tesla's earnings, we might see some buyers stepping in. We may see Tesla rebound just a little bit, but there's no guarantee that this is going to last for the rest of the week, as earnings is going to determine where Tesla goes. So I'm going to be talking more about Tesla and the technicals in just a couple of minutes, but I first want to talk about some data, some headlines, and a couple of things first. So as a reminder, after the market closes on Wednesday, Tesla has its earnings. And this earnings is going to be very important because Tesla's guidance is going to determine the sentiments and the views of everyday investors, institutional investors, and etc. So if Tesla gives bad guidance, if something is wrong, something these investors don't like, there's going to be a risk of a big rug pull and Tesla could end up sinking. Now, the exact opposite could happen as well. This could lead to a massive short squeeze at the same time if Tesla makes a big announcement. So you want to be very open-minded approaching these events. However, approaching earnings for Monday/Tuesday, there's a good chance that Tesla may make an attempt to rebound, at least for Monday, just for now. So I'm just going to focus on Monday. Now, what else is interesting is that on Monday, we have Charles Schwab's earnings. That's going to be the biggest one for before the market opens. And the reason why this is big is because you have to remember that on Friday, we had some big bank earnings. The market bounced temporarily on Friday morning before a bigger sell-off happened. Now, why did the banks do so well? In my opinion, it's because estimates have been lowered quite a bit when it comes to like expectations. So that's the reason why Wells Fargo and PNC and JP Morgan Chase did even better than expected, like much better, and they absolutely destroyed estimates. So with that said, I believe there's a good chance that when the data comes out tomorrow, Charles Schwab is going to announce that they beat earnings. That's most likely going to be the case, in my opinion. I think that these estimates are just very manipulated, and this could cause the market to rebound just a little bit. Now, I'm going to talk about some resistance levels and why you can't turn way too bullish. We have to see if the market could break certain levels before we turn a bit more bullish. I'm going to talk about those in a few minutes. I also wanted to mention that we have the New York Empire State Manufacturing Index data coming out 1 hour before the market opens. So we're going to be watching to see how that affects the markets. It may not be anything too big. Then we have Harker giving a speech 1 hour after open at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. That's pretty much it for tomorrow in terms of like the economic data. Now, the news is coming out that Tesla has cut prices, and as they've done this conceded billions in sales. And investors are basically pushing for Elon Musk to spend more and more on ads. Tesla already announced that they're going to be doing so, but they want even more advertising as demand is continuing to slow down. So we're going to be watching for this big concern. How will Tesla's margins look as time goes on? What will they look like in this next earnings? And will they maintain these very, very high amounts of sales and meet their goals and the expectations of these investors going into earnings? Also, what will Tesla do to address these concerns from investors? Will they announce anything? Are they going to talk about the recession that's coming up? Are they going to talk about like potential declines in sales? Will they or will they not? We'll have to find out. And that's going to be exactly why this earnings report is going to be very important. Now, when it comes to the overall market, there's these pieces of news coming out that there are a lot of similarities between today's stock market and the market of 1987, but that does not necessarily mean some kind of crash has to happen. And I actually agree with that case because you have to remember that history can rhyme, but it doesn't have to always repeat itself exactly. It does have a tendency of rhyming, but the past is not a determiner of the future, right? We're in very, very different circumstances right now relative to like 1987, 1970, even 2008. We're in very, very different circumstances. There's more manipulation in the markets that try to trick investors, especially if so many people are expecting some kind of crash. And as you guys know, like I've said in my previous videos, I believe it's very likely the market is not going to crash for the end of the year, and we're going to actually see a big rally, which is going to throw so many investors off. And that's what tends to happen historically. And I believe the market doesn't truly have a thing to crash over in its own eyes. I think the manipulation is going to help this market pump as we have an election year coming up. Now, my view could change if we have some very big black swan events, but for now, I'm still holding the same view that, I'm leaning more bullish for November and December. Now, could there be more downside for October? Yes, there could be, but like I said in my previous videos, there's still likely upside for the end of the year. I will talk more about that in a later video. I just want to focus on the short term for now. Tesla had 103 or 102.3 million in volume, which is not bad. It did drop on lower volume, which is not as bad for it. The short volume increased just a little bit on Tesla. And then Citigroup, UBS, and Wells Fargo are all basically just neutral on Tesla, giving it like equal weight or neutral ratings, which is not bad whatsoever. Price to ratio is dipping a bit because Tesla's showing some signs of weakness, but Tesla has a tendency of being very strong during the weeks of earnings, approaching earnings. So there's a good chance that this is going to start to increase, and we're going to see Tesla start to gain some strength. Mondays also are historically bullish about 53% of the time. And when it comes to hourly seasonality, around the second hour of the day is when we tend to see Tesla do better. Well, actually, this is like the third hour, so like around 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. Also watch it around noon. And then don't forget about 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, we tend to see Tesla doing better. And that's pretty much it for the data. Now let's talk about the charts. I'm going to try to be kind of quick with this part. So Tesla's been on this downward channel for the last couple of days. Now, when we hit this yellow trend line or come close to it, we tend to see Tesla bounce. And I also wanted to add that Tesla has this very, very interesting looking bullish divergence that has developed on it. So with this bullish divergence potentially forming on Tesla, there's a very, very good chance that Tesla's going to attempt to rebound. So this bullish divergence is right here on the 30 minutes time frame on the RSI. So I think Tesla's going to try to make its way back up to 257 or so. This also aligns with this confluence of support that we have right here around 250 from the trend line right here and also their historical support. So look for a little bounce on Tesla. It's going to try to make its way back up to either 255 to 257 depending on the timing. And it tends to bounce on days like this right before its earnings. If it breaks this trend line right here, this white trend line right here, if it breaks this, we could see this thing get very close to 260 plus. However, I wanted to shift your attention somewhere else. And that's because of the fact that when you zoom out of the Tesla chart and you actually look at it like this, there's a possible head and shoulders developing on it. This is like a big head here. We have a left shoulder. It could be forming a right shoulder if we form, and we're actually bouncing off the perfect support line to cause that to happen if we get the bounce. So there is a risk going into earnings that Tesla kind of like pushes up. Okay, it kind of like trades sideways up here around this 260 to 262 area. It could even go a little higher. But then, when earnings come out, there's a risk of Tesla getting a rug pull and coming down like this. Okay. So I want to warn you about this head and shoulders possibility. I'm not going to be too focused on this for now. I just want to mention that for now, just focus on this move right here, where Tesla basically just rebalances and tries to retest this white trend line. So watch that very carefully, but it's very likely Tesla will rebound, and we'll see if this fails or not. All right, so that's the most likely move for tomorrow. Make sure you watch that level carefully. If you want to be super bearish, you want to see it break below 250. If you want to be very bullish, you want to see this thing break and hold above 262. That would be like a more bullish case. But for now, none of this matters that much until after earnings. And for now, we're just approaching earnings. So I believe the most likely case is going to be Tesla rebounding towards this white trend line, and we'll see if this breaks or not. But if it does break, there's always the risk of a head and shoulders forming. So never turn too bullish or too bearish right before earnings. Wait and see what earnings cause. Now, as far as SPY goes, the same thing is developing. Basically, we have this channel that's been forming and we're approaching support right here. So SPY also happens to have hold on, right here, SPY also has a bullish divergence on the 30 minutes time frame. So I think there's a good chance SPY is going to rebound just a little bit, just for like a defensive bounce. But that does not necessarily mean we're bullish. It just means that this could be a very temporary bounce based off technicals, and it could always reject and continue to maintain its downtrend. So this could just be a big downtrend. See how this thing kind of like bounced and came down. It like bounced here and came down, bounced here and came down, could bounce and eventually come down. So watch this test where this blue trend line is around this 434 to 433 area. If we break this, we could turn bullish and make our way back up to 436. If we reject off this blue trend line, then we're going to turn bearish and continue to reject. But for now, don't worry about the rejection. Let's just see this thing rebound towards 433 to 434. That is likely going to happen tomorrow. And then we're going to be watching to see if this breaks or not, but just watch that move for the time being. For the QQQ, same thing. This also has this like downtrend that's being established. We're going to be watching support right here, which is where we have this nice looking. This also kind of looks like a very mini like falling wedge. So watch for a rebound towards this 367.5 to 368 area. And we'll see if this breaks or not. If it breaks and holds 368, we could turn more bullish and try to make our way back up to like 370. That would be like a somewhat more bullish case. But the thing is, don't turn way too bullish until after Tesla's earnings or like after more data comes out. And don't turn too bearish until after either. We need to see what happens with earnings first and how Tesla reacts before we can really determine our direction. So even if this thing does pump approaching Tesla's earnings, right? Who knows what Tesla's going to do? If Tesla gets a big rug pull, this could drag the QQQ right back down. So you want to be very careful and watch resistance right here at this trend line. That is going to be key for the QQQ. So watch that support and watch that resistance. For Nvidia, the same thing could be developing because Nvidia happens to have a bullish divergence. Nvidia has it right here. Let me just pull up Nvidia real quick. Looking at Nvidia with this bullish divergence on the 30-minute time frame, this actually formed during the after hours. So you guys can see it right here. With the potential divergence, there's a chance that Nvidia kind of rebounds off this yellow trend line, and we also have this white trend line, which is historical support for Nvidia. So we'll look at that white trend line, which is its support. Now that tells me that we may see a rebound off this channel. We could see a small rebound and attempts to get back up to this 462 area. But if it rejects off this, it could come right back down. So you want to be watching this very, very carefully. This is going to be very important for NVIDIA. So watch support and watch resistance, and we will see if this thing can break or not. If you want to turn bullish, you want to see this thing establish higher highs and higher lows, get a really nice bounce and eventually break above 462. That's going to be the bullish case. But once it hits this trend line, it could reject. So watch that very carefully and see if this thing does end up coming down, because we also have this possible head and shoulders that could take NVIDIA towards even lower levels. So be very careful with NVIDIA. Look for a small temporary, defensive balance towards 460 to 462. And then we will see if it rejects off that zone or not. If it rejects, then once again, more downside is imminent. And for now, just look at that move and we will see for the time being. Last but not least, on TradingView, I'm going to be talking about Aapl. Now, Aapl is at or very close to this demand zone. There's a bullish divergence on Aapl as well. It's also forming a kind of like a head and shoulders like pattern. So we could see this thing come down to this demand zone and rebound, hit this resistance around this 179.68 to 180 area, then reject. So we're going to be watching that very, very carefully just to see. So watch these levels and look for a possible head and shoulders that could be forming. But for now, let's just see the rebound and see how it reacts to this resistance. All right, so a little rebound is on the table for Aapl too. So anyways, that's pretty much it for the main tickers I typically talk about. Now I just want to mention a couple of others. So if you want to look at the Russell 2000, this is also looking like it has a bullish divergence. So look for a retest of about this 171.8, 171.48 area. If it breaks down to 172.69, it's going to be the next level. In my opinion, I believe that the IWM could rebound a bit. So we're going to be watching that first. But there's no guarantee it's going to last for a very long time. Microsoft could also rebound. We're going to be watching if this bullish divergence plays out. If it could get back above like 330, then reject. But I believe that the trend is looking more bearish for now, so it could see more downside later on. Look for a little backtest of about this 329 to 330 area, then rejection for it to drop back down to 325. For AMD, we have a small bullish divergence. Look for a little backtest of 105.61 to 106, and then a rejection for the head and shoulders for it to eventually come down. So if you look at like the 30 minutes time frame, right, we have this head and shoulders like pattern on AMD. So look for a little rebound first before it continues lower. So I could see more downside. But first, it could retest 106.6 or so, and then eventually reject. Looking at Netflix, to me, this is looking a little weaker. Look for this thing to retest 358 and reject and eventually come down. Still on a very, very strong downtrend. There's no sign of it truly bouncing yet. There could just be a little rebound before it continues lower. SPX is looking like it wants to rebound too as we have a bullish divergence. So watch this thing potentially come back up towards this 43.53 area and maybe even a little higher towards 43.60 before this thing rejects and possibly comes lower. So watch that support very, very carefully. The trend is looking a bit more bearish, so even a small bounce could still, it doesn't necessarily have to turn this bullish. It could just be a very small one. As far as the VIX goes, I could see something like this playing out where it kind of like drops off this bearish divergence. On the 4-hour time frame, we have this bearish divergence and also like a possible wedge that's forming. With this bearish divergence, it could come right back down towards support at the 50 EMA, very close to 17 or so, then try to rebound later on. So that tells me that the stock market may try to pump a little bit before it continues lower. The dollar index is once again, it's been like on a uptrend, but it's forming a bearish divergence, and it has like a rising wedge-like pattern. So that tells me that basically the dollar may start to come down because the stock market may pump temporarily for Monday or Tuesday. The dollar suggests that upside could be coming for the markets. For Coinbase, I would say that this is looking like it wants to rebound off the bullish divergence. I think this thing is going to retest 75 and maybe try to get up to like 75.75 at the very least and then reject. But I could see a little bounce coming. For Google, look for a retest of 140 before a rejection because we have a bullish, tiny little bullish divergence. So 139.5 to 140 could be retested in a rejection. It could just come right back down towards 137.5. So a little pop and drop is very possible. If you want to look at the 10-year Treasury yield, this is also looking a little sideways, not really doing too much. It's on a slight downtrend, which could help stocks a bit. Amazon is looking a little indecisive. We could be forming a head and shoulders on Amazon. So I'm going to be looking for a retest of this 130.79 area off this head and shoulders. This could be like where our right shoulder happens to be. So I could see a potential back test of 130.79, then a rejection, and then this thing can start downtrending towards 128. And for Meta, I think it's going to retest 318 off the bullish divergence. I think 318 is a good target to 320. Watch 318. If that breaks, 320 is on the table. So I think Meta is going to rebound a bit before some potential downside. All right, so that's what I'm seeing for the markets, guys. Hopefully this video was very helpful for the people out there. Please remain calm, cool, and collected. And we're going to be watching for this bounce on Tesla, at least just temporarily approaching its earnings. But just because I'm saying Tesla could bounce temporarily does not mean that I'm super, super bullish for earnings. It could pump approaching earnings, then sell off afterwards. There's always that possibility. So let's not worry about earnings for now. Let's just focus on tomorrow. And I think Tesla may rebound just temporarily. All right. So thank you for listening. Have a great day. I'll see you guys very soon. Enjoy some football. Enjoy what Sunday has to offer. And I'll see you guys tomorrow morning for the reports on the market and Charles Schwab's earnings. All right. Thank you and peace out.